When we're processing and integrating trauma, it's so often that we have this feeling like we put this wall up around us. We put this wall up around our hearts. We start operating through this space of, maybe we've been in a relationship and we feel like our heart was broken. And then we put this wall up and we become afraid to be vulnerable, afraid to let people in. And it's really important that we understand what's really going on, because this is the path to healing. Our heart cannot be broken. Our heart is so absolutely divine and perfect, and it's so divine and perfect that it's created this beautiful cocoon for our heart to sit in called the pericardium. The pericardium is this sac. Essentially, that's what it is, that our heart sits in. And the pericardium's role is to shield the heart. It's the bodyguard of the emperor. We call the heart the emperor in Chinese medicine. And the pericardium's role is to shield the heart. So as emotions come through our body, emotions are electricity, right? Energy and movement. So as certain emotions come through our body, depending on how traumatic those experiences are, more electricity comes through our body with the emotional process. And the pericardium's role is to shield the heart so that that voltage doesn't come in and influence the heart in any way. Because our heart not only keeps our body alive, right? So important, keeps our body alive. Our heart is actually where our soul plugs into our body. So our heart is the space of all-knowingness, purity, devotion, life. And it's protected by the pericardium so that if these voltages come in, it could influence how our heart is able to keep our body alive. It could influence how our spirit moves through us. So the pericardium, as experiences happen that are traumatic, it starts to harden. It starts to grow stronger even sometimes. It starts to constrict the energy. And it's doing so because it wants to protect the heart. Its role is to protect the heart, and that's what it's aiming for. That being said, as more and more experiences of pain and suffering and trauma continue to be experienced in our lives, the pericardium holds more and more and more. And as it starts to hold even more, it builds a thick, thick wall to protect the heart. And as that happens, it starts to actually constrict the heart, which then starts to create heart palpitations, anxiety, stress, hot, sweaty hands, an inability to regulate body temperature. All these things begin to happen as that pericardium begins to build a stronger wall to protect the heart. And as the heart becomes shielded, and the boundaries of the pericardium are like, no, nothing is getting through here, we're unable to give and receive the love that is in our heart, that is coming through our soul. So in this path of becoming fearlessly expressed, which means that fear is no longer governing our lives, that we're able to live through our soul, we're able to experience the love that is true, we must proactively engage the pericardium, because it's not the heart that is closed. It is not the heart that has the wall. It's not the heart that is broken. It is the pericardium. And we must support the pericardium to learn that it is safe, that it can soften its boundaries, that it can let down its strong walls. And teaching the pericardium healthy boundaries, teaching it how to have soft walls that still protect the heart when electricity rolls through, yet it doesn't shield the heart from sharing your love, sending out your gifts, and receiving in exchange, right? In the Chinese medicine system, we receive through the back of our heart. So when that wall is up, we are no longer able to even be receptive, right? And when we're not able to be receptive, this is why we have this massive endemic of scarcity on the planet, of an inability to receive the infinite, because we have this wall, this strong wall up from our trauma and our pain. And then we actually have fears of letting down that wall, because the pericardium has developed beliefs that say, hey, we need this gate, we need this wall to keep us safe. So a part of holistically taking an approach to healing our trauma and to releasing fear as the governing force that is creating the scarcity, that is creating the lack, that is creating the instability in our relationships, the depression, the sadness, the dissonance with life, the not wanting to be here. We must look at all of the systems that are in place to keep us in this fight or flight mode. And one of them is the pericardium. And we must address what's happening in the pericardium to effectively create change in our lives around these systems of fear and suffering and struggle and depression and, you know, suicidal tendencies and feelings of just not wanting to be here, right? And if you've been following along on this journey of supporting you and understanding what Fearlessly Expressed is all about, right? Each piece is essential. So we talked about the neurology, what's happening in our brain, in the What is Fear call, which you can access at any time for free, this 90-minute call all about what's happening in our brain, in our limbic system, in our HPA axis, in our RAS, our reticulating activating system. You can understand what's going on in our brain and why our brain must be supported and addressed to effectively create change when it comes to depression and fear and being shut down and being in scarcity, worry, stress, anxiety, all the things, right? So our brain must be addressed. And then we must effectively address our pericardium and all of the ways that it has been taught to keep a strong guard, right? To help it to soften, to help it to heal and release the trauma that initially put up that strong wall to begin with. And we do that with this amazing technology that will be put on our pericardium meridians while listening to sound and meditation that help us to actually soften and open up and go right into our pericardium. If we cannot access our pericardium, we will stay in fight or flight. We will stay on edge, constantly living a few steps ahead, keeping ourselves on guard, right? That happens in our lives when we are in this constant fight or flight, right? So our hearts are not broken. Our hearts don't need healing. And to truly live through our heart, which is this grand idea that is broadcasted throughout the spiritual movement now, right? It's a great idea, but if we don't understand what is stopping us from living in our hearts, it's not about opening our heart, it's about addressing the pericardium. Our heart is always open. If our heart was closed, we wouldn't be alive. Because our heart being closed means blood is not circulating through our body. Blood doesn't circulate through our body. Qi, Shen is the spirit molecule, and that is stored in our heart. So if our heart is actually closed, then Shen, our spirit, is no longer in our body. If our spirit's no longer in our body, we are dead. Right? Our spirit goes into a next body. If our heart is closed, it cannot pump blood. We are dead. So it's not our heart that needs opening. It's the bodyguard of our heart, our pericardium, that must be addressed, and that we will be proactively engaging with some incredible advances in technology that come with the Fearlessly Expressed program to engage our pericardium, to have practices to open up, and to teach ourselves healthy boundaries so that we can release constantly being in the state of fight or flight, so that we can actually soften and open and allow our nervous system to come back into balance so that we can truly, deeply heal. And that is what I'm all about. So if you have questions about Fearlessly Express, if you're interested about it, please send me a message. I'd love to share with you more of the information and the details about the whole system. And I'm going to be coming live more often to let you know, because this is so important. If we don't understand how this inner world works and functions, we won't know how to heal it. It's like our computer. If we don't know that if our computer shuts down and the power button is not working, that we can press Control-Alt-Delete or Windows Escape and get ourselves out of whatever has created this pause in our computer. Because our brain and our body are like a computer. They have certain buttons and systems to be pressed to bring it back into harmony. So I hope that this message has brought you value and insights and awareness, and please do reach out to me about Fearlessly Expressed. Sending you all appreciation for your willingness to heal, because your healing is your gift to humanity. That's all. Until the next time we meet in virtual time and space, much love.